Sadnam aloha, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Let me just get the comments up here so I can see who is here. So my intuition guided me to get on here again for this week because I feel like people need extra support. This is going to be a really intense week. And hopefully you transition through that eclipse, the lunar eclipse. It was directly opposing my sun, right? Because it was my birthday yesterday on May 16th and trining my moon. So it was intense. It was like, where are these emotions coming from? They felt like they were coming from my past lives, right? I'm a South Node in Capricorn, so lots of lifetimes repressing those emotions, and this lifetime is about paying the piper, and boy, have I been paying the piper this lifetime emotionally. So it's going to get even more intense. So this is the message, but not to be afraid of it, because we can use this energy for our evolution, right? It's all about our evolution. Okay, so who's here? I just want to acknowledge some people. Looking forward to this conversation from Sydney, Australia. Wooden person. Shanette from Wisconsin. Austin, Texas. From Nebraska. Lily from the UK. Yay. And Tammy. Yay. Still in Miami. That's awesome. Massachusetts. Toronto. And, spiritual designer is happy to be here, sick in bed and able to slow down. That's right. That's your soul getting you to stop, to slow down. And don't call it sick, right? I call it, I'm having a physical clearing. Don't give it too much I am, right? Whatever comes after I am, you identify with. You're getting an upgrade, right? And that's usually happens through the physical clearing of the body. So take care of yourself, spiritual designer. Okay. Yeah, happy birthday to all the Taurus out there. In Tacoma, right? Oh, thank you for the birthday wishes. And thank you to everybody who sent me birthday wishes yesterday. It was really touching, right? Really, really touching to hear from everybody. And VA Beach. Is that Virginia Beach, eh? Edgar Casey land, Kimberly. Okay, so let's share the chart here. And where are we? Okay. So there's the chart. So I've done one for today, tomorrow, right to the 21st. But really all the action is from now until the 20th. So that's Friday, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. And then we're out of Taurus and we're into Gemini. Okay. So just a quick little overview here. We're still in and also I want to mention too before I get into this that Saturn has been squaring the sun in the Earth. Right, squaring the sun and the earth, the moon, especially during this eclipse. So Saturn delays things. So it's like there's a gate, right? There's a gate with us, these emotions. So we haven't even experienced the full flood of the emotions yet. So Saturn will release on, where's the day here? Okay, it's in the 30, right? Okay. Yeah, on Thursday, right? It's going to actually, I know what it is. Yeah, it's on the 22nd. Let me just get I got my iCal up. I feel like I'm totally losing my left brain logic these days. And time is doing such weird things, right? Like yesterday, it's like another birthday. I'm having another birthday. I can remember the last one. Like it was yesterday. Like I can remember details. It was like it's just so weird. And I feel like this is the time. It feels like time speeding up, but it's actually our evolutionary progress that's really speeding up, right? This evolutionary energy is really getting intense. So Sunday, is the 22nd. So Saturday, right? So it's really going to start in, Saturn is off on Saturday, off the squaring, and then this is going to be like the floodgates coming through. So we have to prepare for that. And I'm sure people are feeling emotional already, right? Okay. So let me just get, again, this, there we go. Okay. Okay. So just watch my last video, right? I go over this, these channels defined and what's that about. So we're still in it. And then we're in Mercury retrograde too. So that's really getting us to review our past. And the purpose of Mercury retrograde is not to, like, people are like, I can't do anything. I can't sign contracts and I can't do anything when Mercury's in retrograde. Don't give your power over to astrology. You know, we are more powerful than astrology. It's just a reflection of our consciousness, right? That's all it is. It's as above, so below. So, are we going to play this game again? Okay. So, okay, let me just get focused here. Okay, so the purpose here, right? We're still in the 8. Do you see that in the sun, right? The 8 and the 14, and that's all about becoming your authentic self. This is what everything is about here. The emotions that are coming up, it's just showing us where we need to let go. Right, we're being called and guided to let go so that we can truly become our authentic self. So there's a grief that comes with that, you know, because, like, to get into the psychological of this, is when we're children, right, in order to cope, because we have to survive as children. It's like we're so dependent on our family of origin for our survival that we actually fragment. Right? So we fragment, and meaning that we create these different personalities, right? So what's happening now, and they're not real, they're not authentic, but we believe them to be real. So what's happening now is like the emotions and the energy and everything is showing us where we're being fake, where we're being inauthentic, and that's these fragments that have to go. But we believe them into existence. We think, like, this is who I am because this has served me. It kept me alive in my family of origin, right? I was the people pleaser in my family of origin, right? I had a narcissistic mother, a narcissistic father, and this is how I had to cope to stay alive, you know? So we take this fragment that we believe is us, and then it follows us into adulthood, and we replay this role that we're in, and it's not real. And now the Aquarian age consciousness is like, no, that's not real, it's not true, it's not who you are. So there can be a lot of fear that comes up, right? And this is of like, I've got to stay, this is me, and you've got to trust. It's like, no, the universe is telling you that it's not you. Right? What is you is being born and birthed, right? And it's always been there. It's not like you're going to be a walk-in, right? It's in there, but it's buried deep within you. So whatever is being taken away from you now, it's like, why do? Like, wow, this is awesome. This means that it's not me. But there's a grief, right? And that's where the emotions come in. Yeah. So we have a lot of support right now, right? The 214 is our spiritual GPS. It's guiding us to where we're supposed to be on our destiny, on our right path with the right people. We've got the 4323, the Freak the Genius channel. That's giving us deep, deep insights if we stop that crazy mind, the noisy mind, right? And we're able to listen to the voice of our soul, and then we're being initiated, right? And the other thing of note too, everybody, is that these are all individual channels. And what does that mean? That means that there's the collective channel type, and there's the tribal channel type, and the individual channels are all about being yourself. So we're really getting the echo, like it's time to be your authentic self. Each one of these is individual. And this is the only individual channel that's coming off the ego. The ego is all about the tribe, right? And that's about like making the leap out of the ego, out of all these false selves into the higher self, right? The true you, into universal love. That's the city there, right? So that's beautiful. So we're being supported, and then, right, things start to shift on the 20th. And what's the 20th? It's Friday, right? Things were going to start to feel a little bit different then, a lot different, right? And so this is when the solar plexus gets activated right here. That's the solar plexus. That's where all the action is for the Aquarian age, is the solar plexus. So very, very emotional. And then it's connecting, right? The 41. You see the moon is in the 41, and then Saturn is still in 30, right? Whoops. And this is the beginning of all human experiences, right? That 41 is the start codon. That's when the mandala moves all the way back to the beginning. So this is our desires, right? Saturn, our true desires, and then merging with this anticipation, right? It's the fool's journey. That's what I look at when I see this channel. So our emotions are going to be guiding us, right? So we have to remember that our emotions is how our soul communicates to us, is through our emotions, and that's what it's trying to it's trying to get through to us, right? So people are like, I talk about this in my video with the difference between the soul and the voice of the ego. So we need our hearts open, right, to like correctly interpret our intuition. We need the heart open. This is the Google Translator, right? The Google Translator is your heart. So, right, the soul's communicating through your emotions, but your heart needs to be open to be able to interpret correctly, right? So what are we coming against is our emotional body that's got all those trapped emotions in them. So I want to talk about this conjunction, right? The reason why we're here is this conjunction is on right now, right? Like we'll go back to this one, right? So we've got the Neptune right there, 36.3. And then we've got Mars, right? So the Mars-Neptune conjunction, which is huge. So, and it's in the 36, right? It's in the 36 right there. So look at that. That's coming right off the solar plexus. This is the shadow of turbulence. This is all about your emotions. So what's really interesting is I like to look at celebrities, right? Because their lives are so public, to understand how the chart works. Adele, you know the singer Adele? She's got the 36-35. She's an emotional manifester. And why she affects so many people, like she's got like 1 billion views on her YouTubes, right? Like she's really affects people. Because why? Because she's singing right from her solar plexus. That's going right to the throat. This makes her a manifester. And manifestors are powerful. And you saw her when she did, you know, the Grammys with, remember when George Michael, they did a tribute, and she was at the Grammys and she started off and she's like, stops everything live on television. This doesn't feel right. That's the emotional manifester in their power. This does not feel right. Let's do this again. Right? So what's really interesting too, just as another side note, is George Michael was also a manifester, and he was a 6 line. See the 6? You got 8.6. If you got a 0.6 and you're black or you're red, this is your 6 line. It means you're a role model and you go through huge changes, right? Huge transformation, like you're a completely new person, and it starts at 47, 48, 49, 50. Right? And it's like we're all going through this 6 line process, but they're the canaries in the coal mine, anybody with the 6 line. So you want to check that out if you've got a 6 line, and just be aware of that. In my recorded readings, I actually, if I notice somebody has a 6 line, I send them this audio as well, so that they understand what their process is about. And George Michael didn't make it. He died at what, 52, 53? This is what happens with 6 lines if they don't change, right? They get called. They get called by life. That means they attract some kind of illness to them, and then they're gone. They're out of there, right? So he didn't make it through his process because he refused to move through what he had to move through, let go of an old identity. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that to people. Okay, so let's go into so we're evolving through the emotional body, right? So we have to remember that we're evolving through the emotional body. This is how it's working. We're going through a great awakening on the planet. We're evolving into a whole new species. We're moving through this emotional body. This whole awareness system and how we experience life is completely changing. We're no longer experiencing life through our mind, but through our emotions. And this brings us to spirit awareness, where we're aware of frequency, we're aware of vibration. And you may already be in tune with that, you know? That's the way to go. It's like feel your way through life. Don't think your way through life now. And really, you've got to meditate, right? You have to meditate. And meditation, whatever tradition you choose, right? Kundalini yoga, that's my deal, right? Because it works for me. I've got lots of free meditations on my website and my YouTube channel. And meditation is just giving you a relationship with your own mind. That's what it does. Because most people are completely identified with their mind. That's why we're going to see more and more mental illness or disease like related to the mind, like dementia. We're seeing more of that. We're seeing more of Alzheimer's disease, things like that. People who are identified with their minds, right? And the mind is dismantling right now. It's dismantling. So it's a dangerous place to be when you're identified with your mind, you know? It's time to identify as your soul, like who you truly are. And the mind is just a tool, right? It's just a tool. So meditation gives you that distance where you're able to observe your mind. Because if you don't have control over your mind, someone else will have control over your mind. And that's mainstream media, right? Everyone is like grabbing for that control. Like we want to control the masses through mind control, right? The propaganda, all that, that's all connected to the mind, wanting to control the mind. So you want to meditate. It's like taking a shower, right? What happens to your body when you don't shower for a long time, right? It starts to stink. It starts to smell. Well, that happens to your mind when you don't meditate. When someone doesn't meditate, you can smell it. You can smell their mind, right? How negative it is. It's like totally running them. And just to use the dog as a metaphor, people who have pets, you know, because I go to the dog park every day, is it can be it's like our pet, right? The mind is like our pet, and sometimes the dogs are jumping on other people, or barking. Well, that's the mind, right? It's not the owner doesn't have control over their dog, doesn't have control over their mind. It's barking. That's the ego coming at people, right? Overstepping boundaries, jumping on people, things like that, right? You want to have control over your mind, right? On a tight leash now. What else did I want to say about that with the mind? Okay. So I just want to talk about this turbulence, this shadow of turbulence with the 36 with Mars and Neptune on there. So the higher frequency of Mars and Neptune in this position is that your actions and your desires are aligned with your soul, right? Neptune spiritualizes everything, right? With Mars and Neptune at a lower frequency, that's like violence, right? Aggression, deception, manipulation, right? That's low frequency. You want to raise it to the higher frequency, which is to spiritualize your actions. Are my actions coming from my soul? Are my desires truly coming from my soul? Or am I trying to manipulate a situation, right? So this is really serving us, you know? So I noticed with my own mind, as a teacher, the teachers out there, your first student is always you, right? You're always learning. As a teacher, you're always learning, and you learn by you being your own student. So I noticed when I'm emotionally triggered, because turbulence is about triggering, like imagine water, that's muddy, right? It's kind of stagnant, but as soon as you stir it up, then the mud starts. That's the turbulence. That's the emotional body, right? When it gets triggered. So when I notice when I'm triggered and I'm not connected to my emotions, a signal for me is my mind starts to generate really negative thoughts, right? Negative thoughts, judgmental thoughts towards myself or towards other people. I start to think everything is just hopeless and why bother? The why bother mental attitude towards life. People are horrible and people are self-centered. Nobody cares about anything. They're just out for themselves. It's a dog-eat-dog world. It's just the way it is. That's a signal to me. And you start to feel more and more horrible, right? Because the emotions are coming up. This is a signal that there's emotions that have been stirred up for some reason. And the mind is trying to control you from feeling those emotions, right? So it's it's like throwing gasoline on the fire with the thoughts, right? Throwing thoughts on those emotions, and then the emotions build up and they're generating more negativity. So be aware of that, right? This is a signal that emotions have been stirred up and I'm about to have a big cry, right? It's like a signal, like a big cry is coming. And this is 10 times out of 10. This has happened to me. I speak from experience, right? South Node Capricorn, right? Not dealing with my emotions for lifetimes. And then North Node is in Cancer, and I cannot escape my emotions in this lifetime. Believe me, I've tried everything, right? So it's I just surrender. I just embrace it, right? So the crying. So the crying is the relief. The crying is the relief. It's the healing. It's the healing. It's the sign that you're healing, and it comes after the feeling. So this is different than crocodile tears. Crocodile tears are, you don't go to the depth. You don't really feel it all the way through. You kind of dip your toe in it, right? You kind of dip your toe into that muddy pool, right? But you're not going to the depth. You're not going to the root of it. That's crocodile tears. And those are the people that stay in victim, right? They keep re-traumatizing themselves, telling them the same story over and over and over again, staying in their mind, but not going into the deeper feelings, right? The deeper emotions. So crying has been stigmatized, right? Especially for men, but more and more for women too, right? Because of this patriarchal system that we've lived in, trying to make women more into men in terms of nature, right? So I always thought, I was meditating on this, that we should have our society, we should have emotional bathrooms, right? Emotional bathrooms. Because you've got where you go and poop and pee, right? In the public. We'll have emotional bathrooms, and those would be private rooms. We could have the angry room or the grief room or the fear room, just all over our society, right? And the angry room would have a punching bag and boxing gloves, and it'd be a padded room. Or we could have the grief room that would be filled with Kleenexes and fuzzy blankets and low lighting and nice smells. Or the fear room. We could have affirmations playing. Oh, it's just a frequency moving through your body. Just feel it. Everything's okay. Let it go. Right? That we could just go in there. I mean, I've had to do that where I felt just enraged sometimes. And I have to get in my car and I'll do the meditation for childhood anger. I remember doing that with my arm stuck out the window and not caring who saw me. Because it's I got to get this out. I have to get this energy out of me, right? That we could have these private rooms. Because people are going to have to deal more and more with their emotional body. So emotions are like waste, right? They're the residue of when we digest our human experiences. They're the residue. So the trouble happens when we get these emotions get trapped in our emotional body in childhood, right? Because we're not, as a society, we're not very healthy in the expression of emotions, because if the parent hasn't dealt with their emotions, then they're going to project on their child, like, don't be angry, or here's some sugar. That's what I was taught. Here's some sugar if you're angry or you're expressing yourself emotionally. Do everything to stuff it down, right? We were taught to stuff it down. And you notice with children, if they're allowed and have permission to just be emotional when those emotions come, they really move through their emotions cleanly. Like you watch them, like they'll get really angry about something, and then a couple minutes later, like they're happy and they're all playing and stuff. Do you see? Like they're digesting. They're allowed to digest their human experience, and then that moves through the emotions cleanly, right? They're part of our the emotions are part of our human experience here, right? So the other sign too that emotions have been triggered is trying to keep yourself distracted. If you find yourself compulsive, like your mind is compulsive and it's, I have to watch that, I got to binge that Netflix, I just have to watch the next one and the next one and the next one, right? Or with some kind of media, you're in your mind and you're busy thinking, or rushing around and thinking of all the things you've got to do around your home, right? Or so that's the other sign too. It's like, what am I avoiding here? I'm avoiding something because my mind is like obsessive about something, right? It means I'm running from some emotions that want to come up to be digested and cleared. Or going over conversations, especially with this Mercury in retrograde too, going over past mistakes, the coulda, shoulda thoughts, I shoulda, I coulda, right? And so those are some of the signs of that you've been triggered. And of course, having an emotional, like an overreaction to something, right? That's not really rooted. It's like so overkill, right? That's also a sign that you've been triggered. And it's about emotional maturity is about taking self-responsibility for it. It's like, what's this about? What's this about? And it's not about this other person. They're just a messenger, right? You got to look at people as messengers. They're just a messenger to bring this up, whatever this is, right? That needs to be cleared. It's not about the other person. The ego and the shadow want you blaming that other person. So you know what one of the biggest triggers is, right? The emotional triggers is when we're faced and confronted by unconditional love, when we're confronted by love. And people get really triggered by this, right? So a lot of people, they're like abused animals, right? They don't recognize true love, or they don't trust true love, right? Because an abused animal, an animal that's been abused, they see that helping hand. It could be a helping, supportive, loving hand coming towards it. All that animal sees is, here's another hand that's going to abuse me. Here's another person that's going to abuse me, right? And I'm going to push them away, right? I'm going to have my defenses up. This is what we have to start letting go of. We've got to start letting go of our the not healthy boundaries are good, but I mean walls, like cement walls, where we're not letting anybody in, That doesn't serve us. We're social animals. So, we don't trust people. We don't trust people, and we don't trust ourselves to set boundaries with people. That's where the real trust comes in. It's like, from a place of self-love, I'm going to trust myself that I will set boundaries when they're called for, right? That I'll know. And I already taught you a little bit about when someone's, you've got to be self-aware, right? That I explain when I feel like my boundaries are being overstepped is like I feel a little quiver in my solar plexus. right? And that's the ember of that righteous rage that I talked about in the last video. And that's just a signal for me that's like, oh, it's time to set a boundary. Your body will let you know. You don't need your mind. Well, if that person does that, then I'm going to do this. And then you're in the script. You're not in the present moment. Just be present. It's about being present. It's in your body, and your body will let you know, right? If that's called for or not. And then you're more natural, right? With people and your communication too. So why can't we see supportive people around us? Well, because we're in the frequency of victim, right? The victim consciousness. So we want to really address our victim story this week, right? And we all have it. We're all taught to be victims, right? And think of something that your intuition, especially the last couple weeks, because you're getting big signs from your intuition where you need to go, right? Where are you being guided by your emotions that just won't let you go, right? That's your soul, won't let you go. So it's like what excites you, right? Where you feel passionate and regenerated. That kind of energy. But what scares you at the same time? It excites you and scares you at the same time. Well, then you want to, so bring up that energy and that message that you've been getting from your intuition. Well, what comes up? What are the thoughts? Well, I can't do that. I could never do that. Well, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not young enough. Not healthy enough. What would other people think of me? Right? So whatever it is, that will be your number one victim story that you have to sacrifice. That's the higher frequency of Neptune, is sacrifice. Like the true meaning of sacrifice is to make sacred. To make sacred. And that means to sacrifice your old identity, right? Sacrifice your fears. Sacrifice the shadow, right? This is how you get out, right? So, or something that's not working. So what I love with the tarot, I just grabbed the tarot card here. Like before, I haven't picked this intuitively. But there's the Eight of Swords. That represents the victim consciousness. The tarot is like the fool's journey, right? It shows us all the archetypes. You can always find like any movie, like epic movie, like Lord of the Rings, the trilogy or something. You can see the trajectory. They're going through the tarot. So there's the Eight of Swords. So that's victim, right? That's the victim consciousness. So you can see her, this woman, she's got the blindfold on, and then her arms are bound, right? By just string, by crows. But there she is. So she's looking at this reflection, right? She's not bound at all here. This is the real her. But how she's seeing herself as the victim. So it's us that puts ourselves into this victim consciousness. No one else, right? So the victim can want a savior. Oh, I want somebody to come in and do it for me. I want somebody to save me and make the decision for me. And it's like you have to do it yourself. No one else can pull you out of victim except you, right? To recognize that this is an illusion. So one of the sutras for the Aquarian age, to remember, if you're feeling like I'm in a victim consciousness and I feel so trapped, right? Because this makes you feel trapped, that I can't do this. I can't do this because of all these excuses. My mind is coming up, and we make it real, right? This woman has made this reflection real, is to just remember that there's a way through every block. That's one of the sutras for the Aquarian age. It's like as soon as you say that, and you commit to that, there's a way through every block. There's a way through every block. This is all an illusion, right? That I'm in this victim position. Then as soon as you commit to that, right? Then the creative solutions start to come to you. And it usually means you sacrificing something, giving something up that's no longer serving you, right? A toxic relationship. Toxic relationship dynamics. It could be inside you of what the way you've been taught things should be, right? It's not true, or hanging on to this old role, this old fragmented identity from your childhood, right? So there's a way through every block, Soon as you say that, then the solutions come, right? And then the blindfold comes off. This is denial, right? She's got that blindfold on, pretending she can't see. She can just, right? She's not bound. They're little strings. She can take off the blindfold and then she can see the way through, right? But you have to do that if you're in this. And also say that to other people, right? That are coming to you with their victim stories. Like, don't feed this, because when you feed the victim, you're feeding the victim inside you too. So that's how you get out. So the victim consciousness really keeps us from our emotions, and that's our work to get into the Aquarian age, is to purify those emotions, those emotional body. So facing and confronting our emotions, right? So the two major fears for humans are the fear of tomorrow, what's going to happen to me, right? Fear of the future, and then fear of what other people think of me. And that's so connected to the 8 in the sun position that we're in this week, right? So I'll feel rejected. If I do that, I'll be rejected. I'll feel ashamed. I'll feel vulnerable, right? So the vulnerability is huge for this shadow, right? So we try to avoid people, right? That we feel something around. We feel something around. We feel uncomfortable, right? Around certain people. So we try to avoid them and run from them. And really the truth is nobody makes anybody feel anything, right? That's the capital T truth. The thing is that person helps draw out whatever's already inside you. It was already inside you even before that person came in your field. Right? Like, let's go back to Adele, the manifester, singing from her solar plexus. She's not creating love and feeling and sadness in other people. She's helping draw that out, right? With vibrating this frequency. That's a match, right? Because it's like the polarity. If you're really singing from your soul, or you're singing about love, that anything that's not in that frequency of love is going to come up. Right? It's going to come up to be cleared in that other person listening, right? So it can bring this vulnerability, right? This vulnerability. That's the dilemma with the 36, with the shadow, with Neptune and Mars there, is feeling emotionally vulnerable and believing that your emotions will kill you, that they're just so overwhelming, right, for you. And this is our society, right? It brings up a lot of shame to be vulnerable in this way. It's like the ego. It's like you gotta, if you're not feeling great, you gotta pretend that you're great. Fake it till you make it. You gotta look successful. Even if you've got a dime in the bank account, you gotta be looking like a millionaire, right? And it's all inauthentic. It's not true. And vulnerability, people who are emotionally vulnerable, it's a relief. I remember when I first started doing public speaking, I would go in front of a big crowd of people and I'd be feeling this nervousness. I was feeling everybody in the room too, right? And as soon as I was honest and said, "Oh, I'm nervous. I just need to take a moment to take a few deep breaths," you could just feel people like relax. As soon as I said it, right? It's that emotional honesty that people really appreciate it. Because if you run out and try to be inauthentic and like, I got it all together, and listen to someone speak, like the whole room feels what they're feeling, right? If they're nervous or in fear or, right? Not being honest, everyone in the room can feel it. So this vulnerability, the emotional vulnerability, it brings up the pain of our childhood, right? Because we were so open-hearted and emotionally vulnerable and loving beings, when we were children. So it can echo back when we're emotionally vulnerable, right? So it brings up that trauma, right? It brings up that trauma of when you were rejected, right? When you were neglected, when you were overlooked and not seen, when you weren't allowed to be yourself. It brings up the pain of childhood. Right? So the emotions that we're feeling, that we're going to feel this week, like depression or anger or sadness or despair or hopelessness, that's the inner child calling for our attention, right? The inner child never grows up. So this is our work this week. And it's just to stop, right? It's just to really stop and give yourself that space just to feel. So in letting go of people who re-traumatize our inner child, we become addicted to those people who make us feel like we did when we were children. They bring that up in us and we become addicted. It's such a sick thing, right? Addiction is about not being able to control something, right? It's this compulsion. So of course they didn't make us feel that, right? Those feelings were already inside of us, but we are choosing those people to re-traumatize our inner child. And now it's time to let them go, like give them the heave-ho. You don't need them anymore, right? I don't need you to show me that I'm wounded and traumatized because I'm going to go inside and heal it myself. See, the child wants to fix, right? That's why the inner child chooses the people like their parents, right? That hurt them in the first place, because the child is coming in as a soul coming in, wants to heal the parents, right? So this is that compulsion. I'm going to get it right this time. I'm going to get it right this time. And it's like, let that go. Just do this work for yourself, right? So there's a great thing with the mind, right? Because the mind doesn't want you to do this work at all. Doesn't want you to deal with your emotions at all, because that's where all your power is, And people that have done emotional work, what it is, right? To just have that relief and then that huge expansion of pure awareness. That's who you are. So you keep expanding in your power, right? Because that's where we're headed. We're headed to frequency, vibration, spirit awareness. So just some little yogic techniques you can do is like to put your eyes at the tip of your nose. I used to do this as a kid just naturally. I just loved it. And what it does is stimulates your pituitary, creates a pressure in your pituitary gland that opens up your third eye, and it locks in your optical nerve, and it focuses the mind. So the mind's not like taking you everywhere, or you're choosing to follow it everywhere. So it really focuses the mind. And then you can chant the mantra Sat Nam. Sat mind rhymes with but. Sat Nam. Truth is my identity. Truth is my identity. So it's reminding the mind, right? It's like soap. You're putting soap on the mind when you do that, right? So that's just an easy thing that you can do if you feel like your mind's out of control. And it's like, I really want to feel like what Michael's saying. I really want to just feel what's going on for me. But my mind is like insane because it doesn't want you going there, right? Being around water is really healing too. So in the bathtub, shower, or by a body of water, that really helps with the emotional body. And music has just been a lifesaver for me. Music. So I actually have a playlist. If I'm feeling like I know the emotions are there and I don't want to force them, because you can't force the emotional body, but I want relief. I want some relief from this because it's uncomfortable, that pressure, I'll put on music. I've got a whole playlist of music that I play. And so the music, you want to make sure doesn't involve your intellect, where it's like, oh, the lyrics are so clever. That keeps you in your mind. You want that frequency, and there's musicians that are tapped into that frequency where you're going into the heart, right? And you feel it. You feel it. And Adele does that with her voice, And then, of course, mantra music, that really is good too. Anything by Sonatam Kaur is really good. She really opens my heart. Or Sing Kaur, or the Crimson sessions. I'm going to put those in my playlist on my homepage on my channel, right? So just this week, it's like I'm going to stop. And I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to be courageous, and I'm going to face my emotional body and this turbulence that's coming up. And what's the gift? It's compassion. It's humanity. It's what makes us human, right? And compassionate. So once you do this work yourself, then you can help create a space for other people too, to face their turbulence and their emotional pain, Okay. I didn't expect this to go so long, but I just wanted to really called to jump on. So I just want to see what people are saying. Okay. Yeah, okay. Where did I left off here? VA. Yes, great reminder. Hi from London. Another one from London. London, England, I assume. I was born in London, Ontario. Dallas, Western Australia. Great. Nigeria. Welcome. Kimberly. Yes, the 40 days of the inner child anger meditation. I love that meditation, you know? And if you're feeling that, if you're like grinding your teeth at night or you're having jaw pain, this is where all that anger gets stored, right? In the child. And it's really difficult to get at, but this meditation really helps. And I've got, it's best to do it with me because I, in the meditation that I record it, because I really like empower people with my energy. With that meditation. I did that for 40 days, 40 to 90 days, and it completely changed my personality, right? To let that go because the child hangs on to that anger. So if you're feeling depressed, if you're dealing with depression or something like that, it probably goes back to your childhood, right? And sometimes we fool ourselves. We go into denial like that victim consciousness card, right? With the blindfold on, and it's like, oh, I had a great childhood. I love hearing those people, right? Because I'm intuitive. It's hard to lie to me, right? And it's like, oh, that person is so full of it, right? And then they go through the process. Of course, you can't call them out on it and confront them, right? You got to let them go through their own process. But then they come back, and it's like this happened and that happened, and you know, but little stories like at the beginning, oh, I had a great childhood, and you know, but I got locked in a closet once. My mother locked me up in a closet, but you know, I deserved it, right? It's like, that's abuse, right? To mirror that back to the person, that's abuse. That would be traumatic to a child. So we may not even be aware of how much we were abused, and we can be emotionally abused too, like neglect. That's not given affection and love by the mother. That can be emotionally abusive too. Using the child as a confidant, right? Things like that. Yeah, talking to a child like they're an adult, right? Things that they shouldn't know about. Okay. Virginia, Memphis. Yes to music. I love music. Always have. Yeah. And I loved music that made me feel something. Okay. Okay, so Kimberly's feeling a big relief after the eclipse. Yeah, me too. Okay. Yeah, I'll get that music list up this week. Oh, wow. There's a big Kundalini yoga community growing there in London, Ontario. Isn't that fun? You know, I've never been there. Well, clearly I was there because I was born, but I haven't been there like as an adult or anything. Okay. Wooden person. I'm going through a breakup and the emotions have been intense, but I'm facing instead of running away like I usually do, Capricorn. Yeah. 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 That's what I did in past lives. That's good. Because, you know, wherever you go, there you are. You know what I mean? You can't run away. You can't away from your emotional self. The Crimson Sessions, I know. Sinkar's awesome. I love her music. Okay, so I just want to do an ego card for the collective before we part ways. And I'm getting inspired to do a new program, which I haven't done in a while. So I've just been meditating on it. So I'd love your feedback, like what you would like. But I'm thinking this, for starters, for people, would be like just like an intro. Do you know what I mean? Like an intro to shadow work. Like, because I used to have my Shadow Mining 101, but I've got lots more ideas about that. You know, what's the ego? What's the shadow? Just what the mind, like just basic, the emotional body, just basic, like a basic I'm just coming on the spiritual path, and right here's where you can start, get you going. Okay, so these are the ego cards. Somebody asked me what they're called. They're called the healing cards, the ego cards, and I don't think they sell them anymore. This is my third deck. I've been using them since 2004 on myself. They're connected to the Course in Miracles. If people have done the Course in Miracles, I did it in 2015, 2016. That was really good for learning more and more about the ego. Okay. So let's see what card is coming up. The ego and the shadow are telling the collective. Okay. Oh, you're funny, my guy. Okay. Okay. It's the sex card. It's the sex card. I'm just laughing at that because I saw it when I was shuffling, and my mind was like, I hope I don't get that card. And there it was, the sex card. So this is connected to the 36, right? This shadow, the Neptune and Mars. So this is about your sexuality too, right? So I don't usually talk about this with the 36, but since it's here, right? So when we repress our sexuality, which we've been taught to do, right? Through organized religion, it gets perverted, right? That's why we're seeing the pornography. There's pornography addictions. It's becoming really huge now, and there's such access to that now. So this is what the ego is telling us, but I just want to tie it into the 36 here. So when we repress our sexuality, because our sexuality, our sexual energy is life force energy, right? It's very, very powerful, and it's part of our power of manifestation. If it gets locked into the second chakra, right, and not allowed to move through the rest of our chakras, it's all about frequency, then it can get perverted, and that's what we're seeing on the planet. We don't know, we have no idea, like, because of our conditioning and brainwashing, what the power of this is for us, right? Is sex. Okay, so the 36, when we stuff that down and deny it, especially as spiritual people, it's like the dirty little secret nobody wants to talk, the not so dirty little secret no one wants to talk about is, right, those vows of celibacy following us. I remember someone saying that at solstice. I want to give them credit, right? The not so dirty little secret, when she was in the bathroom with the other women, and a lot of the women were talking about, like, oh, we don't have sex anymore, me and my partner. As soon as we got on this spiritual journey, that just went through that just went in the waste paper basket, because it's this perversion, right, of what it is. So when we repress it, we send out this frequency, right? And it's perverted. It's like a perverted frequency that moves through us in the field. And what we do is we attract crisis to us, like these emotional crises. And this is part of the 36. And remember, crisis is like Christ energy. Crisis turns to Christ energy. It's a way to awaken, right? It's our way to awaken. So this Christ energy. And then we've got fear. So there can be a fear of this too, right? So really, like, I just want to say, this is like lust. This is what this is. And it's the ego telling you that you're only a body, right? You're only a body. You're only a physical body. So you objectify not only yourself, because somebody who's addicted to porn, they're objectifying the people that they're watching, but they're all, at the same time, they're objectifying themselves as just a body. This is more than body. This is body, emotions, mind, spirit. It's the whole deal, right? So this is the conspiracy, is just this week not to look at yourself just as a body. You're more than a body, you know? And then we've got fear with it. So there's a fear of your sexual energy with this. So let's get, I just want to check something. Okay. Because it's about relationships, right? We're in 2022, so that's part of our relationship, and it's a part of merging on a soul level. It's through sexual relationships. And we really need to clear that up as spiritual people, right? Let me just check one thing before I get into the gift. Just for myself. I feel like I'm missing something here. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I already covered that. So drawing to you emotional crisis if you don't deal with your sexuality cleanly and honestly. Right? So that's just being about vulnerable, like emotionally vulnerable with people, you know, especially the ones that you trust. It can be so healing just to be witnessed in your emotional vulnerability with the right people, and let your intuition guide you with, like, who can I be emotionally vulnerable with? Who's going to completely accept me and not judge me? Because this is a real way of healing the shadow. The shadow wants to be, right? Wants to be hidden in the darkness. And the soul wants to be revealed, wants you to reveal yourself emotionally. So it can be really, really healing to be witnessed by someone in your emotional vulnerability that you trust. And if you can't do that, if that brings up so much fear in you, in trauma, then be emotionally vulnerable with yourself first, right? In your journal writing or whatever, right? So this is about being clean in your relationships, right? So if you're sexually attracted to someone, it's like, be open about it. Don't be like hiding, you know, let's be friends, you know. It's like to be open, to be open about this. And you can be friends and be open about your attraction, right? Your emotional attraction to someone, because that's part of sexual attraction. And then your sexual attraction. Again, it's this vulnerability, isn't it? To let yourself be seen like this. I was going to say something else about that. Okay, so let's do the gift. What's underneath this? Yeah, and if you're clean like that, clean and honest, then you're not going to attract the crisis back to you. The drama, right? The drama. We just have to be more open with one another. That's all I see is the emotional honesty. It's really important in our relationships. No more game playing. And then at least you know, when you're honest with somebody. Right? Oh, you're not sexually attracted to me. Okay, now I know. Now I know. I can deal with it. Okay, what's the gift? Hilarious. Okay, what's the gift? Spirit, what's the gift underneath this sex conspiracy? Oh, this is great. So it's the gift of transformation, right? The gift of transformation. This is about transforming this energy, right? The sexual energy. So bringing it, you can use it, right? You can use this. This is creative energy. Is our sexual energy, is our creative energy. So using it towards creativity, a creative project, But being open about it, like I'm a sexual being, I'm a human being. It's part of what it means to be human. Just to acknowledge that to yourself, you know, not trying to bury it and make it dirty and wrong. You know, that's the religious trip. But I can use this energy. I have choice how I use this energy. And sure, I can use it to merge with somebody, merge our souls together through sexuality, or I can use it to create something, or I can use it to heal, right? I can use that energy to heal too. It's like it's my choice, and this will transform us, right? It transforms us into something higher and greater and elevates our relationships, right? Okay. Okay. Heart-based living. I just want to read some comments before we go. Okay, somebody's doing Course in Miracles. I'm a woman of few words yet. Feel to surrender. Great. Thank you so much for the years of service. You're welcome. Okay. Heart-based living. North Carolina. Yeah. Yes, have a re-listen to it if you're called to. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for joining me, everyone, for this week. And I'm going to work on a few more things. And so make sure that you're on my newsletter list, because I sent out a message to the newsletter people that I was coming live and what new things are coming up. And I'll let you know things to support us during this time of great, great transition. Okay? Okay. Sat Nam Aloha, everyone. Bye-bye.